Marbs here. The desire for a game that is both new and innovative is something we hear about a lot. Both developers and publishers are very apprehensive these days in investing money into new concepts because the risk is great. When you examine the category of arcade racers, the level of risk is perhaps even higher, with games like Splitsecond, Blur, and Onrush never really finding an audience or achieving the required levels of success. Splitsecond and Blur remain among my top standout titles on Xbox 360. The original Screamer was released by Milestone for publisher Virgin Interactive for DOS back in 1995. At the time, it was considered by many to be an excellent arcade racer with smooth gameplay and a very high sense of speed which could be felt, and that was very difficult to achieve in those days. The popularity spawned sequels, Screamer 2, Screamer Rally, and Screamer 4x4. Milestone internally has always wanted to revisit the Screamer franchise, but the time and concept was never quite right to those at Milestone, till now. Now, after 30 years, Screamer is back. This time around, it is not a texture-mapped Polygon game of old, but instead a new, cyberpunk-infused arcade racer with a look that is sure to get your attention, even if you're not a fan of arcade racer. Arriving at the end of March, the new Screamer arrives with high-speed arcade racing infused with a solid anime-cyberpunk storyline, making the campaign more than just grinding. The anime story was developed in conjunction with Polygon Pictures, a renowned Japanese animation studio that has done a number of projects in the past. The cutscenes deliver the story in a way that gives the game far more depth than the typical arcade racer. Milestone, in conjunction with Plaion, gave me the opportunity to check out Screamer in a preview build. What I was able to look at was best described by the developers as an advanced build, but more precisely, it is the work in progress build of the day one patch version of the game. I was able to play this version on Windows PC over the course of a couple of days. I was not able to play the Xbox version. I was allowed to see the first 6 chapters of the campaign and play the arcade game mode. That's about 30 minutes of chapter campaign content. I was not able to test the online mode, the co-op, or the split screen modes of the game at this time. All testing was done using the 8-bit DOE Ultimate 2 wireless controller with TMR sticks, and Milestone obviously recommends that the game be played with a controller. I would describe Screamer as a narrative-driven, anime-inspired arcade racer, and if that sounds a little confusing, it really isn't. In the campaign mode, we have anime-inspired cutscenes that tell the story of a clearly illegal racing competition with 5 different factions, who each of which have a different reason for being there. And as you might well guess, with illegal racing and 5 different factions with their own agendas, the dialogue and the content are a little adult-oriented in nature, and the game will carry an M rating here in North America, which I think is a clear indication that the story is written with an edge to make you get invested in the narrative of Screamer. In the majority of the story from the campaign that I saw, it introduced me to the team of the Grim Reapers. These former private military contractors are seeking vengeance for the death of someone they love. Team leader Hiroshi is getting information from an informant with an insect code name to join an illegal racing tournament to seek revenge and make it look like an accident. On the surface, that might sound a bit cliche, but the delivery and the cutscenes were delivered using an authentic sounding dialogue that makes you get invested in the story. I really felt that I understood what they were talking about, and the dialogue translated subtitles did help with that. While the campaign mode is clearly focused on storytelling, as it should be, this does not mean that the storytelling is done at the expense of the racing. The game is true to its original roots in a design that favors gameplay and racing first over everything else. It's designed to be an easy pick up and play arcade racing experience experience. The gameplay segments that I played in the campaign introduced a number of driving concepts in a tutorial style format that required you to achieve the required skills in order to complete the chapter and move on to the next. No talk of the racing would be complete without talking about the control scheme. Screamer uses a twin-stick driving configuration that is a bit different. The game uses the left stick to control the steering of the car and the right stick to control the drift angle. However, saying that it controls the drift of the rear of the car's steering might be a little bit more accurate to newcomers. At first, this twin-stick control scheme might seem a bit foreign to use, but after adapting to it and being able to use it in both the tutorial and the campaign and arcade modes, it is clear that this allows for more effective use of the car, which is important because Screamer uses mechanics and concepts from fighting games in how the game is played. These fighting game mechanics in a racer start with the echo system, which you can see at the top of the screen by the gauge indicating the current level of boost or shield. And as you might expect, shield gives your car the ability to shield itself from attack or damage. The strike, on the other hand, gives you the ability to surge forward and be able to knock out or KO opponents. Of course, you have a super, which is called overdrive. My experience with that is that it will destroy every car in its path that it touches, but it's pretty difficult to control, and if you hit the guardrails or the walls, you will explode. Using this ability will have significant impact on your racing success in both campaign and arcade modes, but it is difficult to master for sure, but the effects and mayhem that it caused when effective were great. When playing an arcade racer, the control is one of the things most important, and being able to play the game well, I found the control to be good, but the twin stick driving system could take newcomers a bit to master. The cars do have different abilities and different handling characteristics, which makes a difference in how the cars will respond to the twin stick driving system. I found experimenting with different cars was essential to find a car that fit my driving style and worked well with the twin stick driving system. The game uses Unreal and delivers an experience that I was drawn into, from the color choices of the skityscapes of Neo Ray to the sky desert road. I found the environments to look good and added to the backdrop of the story that the developers are telling in Screamer. Screamer has fused a lot of great ideas from a number of games together, and it is shaping up to be something special. When I think back to some of the arcade racers that I enjoyed from the Xbox 360 era, like Split Second and Blur, I could see some of that DNA made its way into games that are classics like Screamer. For example, when you combine the big takeouts of Split Second and the tight competitive pack racing of Blur, plus the mayhem that we found in a racer like Onrush, there is something unique here when you combine all that together with this anime-infused storyline. There's a lot to like with what we saw in the Screamer preview, but is it too different? I think a good arcade racer is at the core of what makes Screamer stand out here. In arcade mode, I would assume the multiplayer, knowing Milestone's history with multiplayer experiences in other games such as Hot Wheels, Unleashed, MotoGP, and Supercross 25, I think it's safe to assume Screamer will have a similar multiplayer experience. So even without the story, I found the racing to be good close racing, and I liked the takedowns. The deeper system of Screamer was a bit challenging to get the hang of, but that's true of any fighting game, and I think exploring the potential depth of what you may be able to use as a tactical advantage in races with Screamer will be something that gives Screamer a unique edge over other arcade racers. Screamer arrives on March 26th for the Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, Windows PC, on Steam and the Epic Game Store. Look for my full review of Screamer for the Xbox Series S and X, and my review of the physical collector's edition of Screamer for Xbox. In North America, you have the choice of the standard edition of Screamer or the collector's edition of Screamer, which is a GameStop exclusive in the US. There's a link in the description to pre-order the standard edition for Amazon if you want to do so. So, what do you think of Screamer from this brief coverage? Are you picking up Screamer day one? Do you think the Screamer's collector's edition is cool? Tell me all about it in the comments below. My name is Marbs. Thank you for watching. It'd really help me out if you'd press that subscribe button and like this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.